I'm a 28-year-old guy, and until recently, I thought I had a strong relationship with my girlfriend, Sophie, 27F. We've been together for 3 years and have lived together for 2. Honestly, everything's going great. I was even secretly looking at engagement rings on my lunch breaks. We met through mutual friends at a board game night, nothing crazy. She laughed at my dumb jokes. I like how competitive she was at Monopoly. And we just clicked. We started dating almost immediately and moved in together after a year because we were always at each other's places anyway. We had our little routines. Sunday morning pancakes, evening walks in the park, watching terrible reality shows she loved while I played games on my phone. Just normal couple stuff. She works in marketing. I'm a project manager in construction. We both have decent jobs, good friends, and even our families get along great. My mom loves her, and her dad always invites me over to watch football. People used to say we were the kind of couple that gave them hope about relationships. Yeah, I know how that sounds now. Everything was perfectly normal until last Tuesday. We were having dinner. Sophie was telling me about a project at work, and I was halfway through my sandwich when she casually asked, "What would you think about trying open relationship?" I froze, fork halfway in my mouth. I thought I misheard her, but nope. She kept talking. She said she'd been reading about it online, that a lot of couples were trying it, and that it could help us grow as individuals and strengthen our relationship. Is there someone specific you want to date? I asked, because let's be real, who brings up an open relationship unless they already have someone in mind? She immediately got defensive. No, it's not about anyone else. I just think it would be good for us to explore more while we're still young. I don't want us to wake up in 10 years and regret what we missed out on. I sat there, trying to process what was happening. This was the same girl who once got mad because a waitress smiled at me too much, and now she was suggesting dating other people like it was as simple as trying a new restaurant. Have you been unhappy? I asked, wondering if I'd missed something. Not at all, she said, reaching across the table to grab my hand. I love you. I love us. This isn't about being unhappy. It's about making our relationship even better. Think about it. We could have new experiences but still come home to each other. Lots of couples say it makes their connection stronger. I didn't know what to say. My brain was stuck between confusion and panic. My appetite was gone. Meanwhile, Sophie looked excited, almost glowing, as she kept talking about boundaries, rules, and communication. But all I could think was, where is this coming from? And yet, I said yes. Not because I wanted to, not because I believed in it, but because I could see how much she had already decided. Saying no felt like shutting a door she wasn't willing to close. Are you sure you're okay with this? She asked, all wide-eyed and concerned, like she was giving me a real choice. We don't have to if you're not comfortable. I looked at her, at how desperate she seemed for me to agree, and deep down I knew this wasn't really a choice. Something between us had already changed. If I wanted to understand what was happening, I had to play along. No, it's fine, I said, forcing a nod. If you think it would be good for us, we can try it. And just like that, I stepped into something I didn't believe in, knowing deep down that I was already losing her. She lit up, excitedly talking about setting up dating profiles together, making rules and planning schedules. She had clearly already thought about everything. Meanwhile, I just sat there, wondering how long this had been on her mind. The rest of the night felt strange. We watched TV like everything was normal, but my mind was racing. Sophie was curled up next to me, scrolling through her phone with a little smile on her face, like she hadn't just suggested completely changing our relationship. I wanted to say something, to tell her I wasn't actually okay with this, but I didn't know how. Every time I looked at her, I felt more and more like I had just made a huge mistake. When we went to bed, she fell asleep right away, peaceful, like she hadn't just turned our entire relationship upside down. Meanwhile, I lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell I had got myself into. Part of me wanted to wake her up and say no, that I didn't want to share her with anyone else. But another part of me was scared that if I said no, she'd do it anyway, or worse, leave me for someone else. So I stayed quiet. I ran through every conversation we'd had recently, trying to figure out if I'd missed any signs. Had she been bored? Was I not enough? Was there already someone else? The questions kept coming, and I had answers for none of them. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of how messed up things were about to get. The very next day, Sophie spent the whole evening setting up her Tinder and Bumble profiles. She asked me to help pick her pictures, like this was some completely normal thing for a boyfriend to do. She even asked me to take new photos of her. Yeah, seriously. I played along, snapping pictures of my girlfriend, so she could look good for other guys. I even tried setting up my own profile, just to show I was making an effort, but my heart wasn't in it. Every time I tried writing a bio, it felt weird and fake. What was I supposed to say? In a relationship, but looking for fun? The whole thing made me feel gross. I think she knew I wouldn't meet anyone. I'm not that social, and I don't have the time or energy to go on dates. I had even told her that before. Maybe that's why she thought she could date around and keep me as a backup plan. Sophie got matches right away, of course. She's gorgeous and fun. But what really got to me was how fast she started meeting these guys. Within a week, she had 3 dates lined up. She showed me their profiles like we were gossiping about celebrities. Look at this one, she'd say, shoving her phone in my face. He's a personal trainer at that fancy gym downtown. We're getting coffee tomorrow. I would just nod and pretend this was totally cool and normal. The first time she got ready for a date, I felt sick to my stomach. She wore a black dress I'd never seen before. Yeah, she bought new clothes for this. She spent an hour doing her makeup, more effort than she usually made for our own date nights. When she walked out of our bedroom, she did a little twirl. "How do I look?" she asked, all excited. "Great." I managed to say, even though all I could think about was how that dress probably cost more than what she usually spent when we went out together. That night, she came home late, giggling and happy. I pretended to be asleep when she got in bed, but I heard her texting someone for at least an hour. The next morning, she was humming while making coffee, acting like everything was perfect. I started paying attention to her schedule. Monday, coffee with a gym guy. Wednesday, dinner with some lawyer dude. Friday, drinks with a guy who owned a food truck. Yeah, the range was interesting. Each time she came home, she looked like she'd had the time of her life. I started checking the locations she tagged on Instagram. Not my proudest moment, but I needed to know what was really going on. One night, I actually drove by the restaurant where she said she was having dinner. I saw her sitting at the bar with some tall guy in a suit, laughing at whatever he was saying. She had her hand on his arm, looking at him the way she used to look at me. The worst part wasn't even seeing her with these guys. It was how she changed at home. She spent way less time with me. No more cuddles. She was always texting someone. Our Sunday pancake tradition? Forgotten, because she was meeting the girls for brunch. I tried talking to her about it once. "Don't you think you're going on a lot of dates?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She looked at me like I was being ridiculous. That's the whole point of an open relationship, isn't it? To meet new people and have experiences? You should try it too. I can help you with your profile, if you want. But I didn't want help with my profile. I wanted my girlfriend back. I wanted the person who used to get excited about ordering pizza and watching bad movies with me. Not this new version of her, who was always dressed up and heading out the door. One night, she was getting ready for yet another date, guy number 6 or 7. I'd lost count, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I went for a walk to clear my head, and ended up at the park where we used to have picnics. I sat there for 2 hours, thinking about how fast everything had fallen apart. My phone kept buzzing with messages from Sophie. "Hope you're okay. Don't wait up. Having such a great time." Each message felt like she was twisting the knife a little deeper. The next day, she tried to tell me about her date. Some story about how funny the guy was and how he took her to an amazing new restaurant. I just got up and left the room. She followed me, looking confused. "I thought you were okay with this," she said, actually sounding surprised. "You said you were fine with it." "Yeah, well, maybe I'm not. But you could be dating too. You're choosing to stay home and be miserable." That's when I realized. It's nothing. Emma didn't buy it. She sat down on the couch, crossing her arms. Come on, I've known you for years. You look like someone just kicked your dog. What's going on? I hesitated, then figured why not? If anyone would understand, it'd be Emma. So I told her everything. How Sophie had sprung this open relationship on me out of nowhere, how I'd gone along with it just to keep her happy, how I was slowly realizing that I was the only one losing sleep over it. Emma listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from concern to disbelief to something like anger. Are you kidding me? She finally said. She really thought you'd just be cool with this? Apparently. I muttered. She shook her head. That's insane. I mean, I get that some people do open relationships, but that's supposed to be something both people actually want. It sounds like she just decided for you. Pretty much. Emma exhaled sharply, like she was trying to keep herself from saying something worse. I never thought she'd do something like this, she admitted. She was always so possessive over you. Remember that time a random cashier called you Han, and Sophie pouted about it for a whole day? I huffed a laugh. Yeah, that's what I don't get. She used to get jealous over nothing. Now she's totally fine going out with 6 different guys in 3 weeks. No, she's not fine with it. She just thinks she can have her cake and eat it too, Emma said. She probably assumed you'd just sit around waiting for her. That hit harder than I expected because, well, she was right. That's exactly what I had been doing. Emma must have noticed my face change because she gave me a small, sad smile. Look, I don't want to overstep, but you deserve better than this. Yeah, well, I sighed, running a hand to my hair. Too late now. It's not too late. I glanced at her, confused. She hesitated for a second, like she was weighing whether to say something, then finally went for it. You don't have to just sit here and take it, you know. There was something in her tone, something careful, maybe even a little hesitant. I wasn't sure. But before I could ask what she meant, she stood up. I gotta go finish that cake. But seriously, think about what I said, okay? I nodded, watching as she grabbed the mixing bowls and headed out. After that night, Emma started coming around more often. Sometimes it was small things, dropping off cookies from her classroom, inviting me out for coffee. Other times, it was just texting to check in. At first, I thought she was just being a good friend. Then one night, Sophie was out again, and Emma showed up with a bottle of wine. Figured you could use some company, she said, holding it up like a peace offering. I let her in. We sat on the couch, drinking, talking, and for the first time in weeks, I felt normal, like I wasn't just some sad guy waiting around for his girlfriend to get bored of other men. Then, somewhere between our second and third glass, Emma looked at me, really looked at me, and said, you know, if Sophie can date other people... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I knew exactly what she was saying. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I smiled. Sophie's hands froze for half a second before she recovered, stirring her coffee like she hadn't reacted at all. Oh? What for? I shrugged. Just to check in. We hung out for a bit. She didn't say anything right away, but I could tell by the way she gripped her mug a little tighter that she wasn't as indifferent as she wanted to seem. That's nice of her, Sophie finally said, forcing a smile. It was subtle, but I saw the way her mind started working, the calculation behind her eyes. She was trying to figure out if there was something more to it. Over the next few days, I let more hints slip, mentioned Emma in passing, left my phone face up when she texted. Once, when Sophie walked into the living room, I quickly put my phone down like I was hiding something. I wasn't even texting Emma at the time. It was just a Reddit thread. But I knew Sophie would notice, and she did. By the end of the week, her entire vibe had shifted. She was less carefree, less confident. She stopped mentioning her dates as much. Started asking more questions about where I was going, what I was up to. One night, she finally cracked. Are you seeing someone? She asked, trying to keep her voice casual. I took my time answering, watching her squirm. Why do you ask? She frowned. I don't know. You just seem different lately. I let the silence stretch just long enough before I finally said, maybe I finally get it now. Get what? she asked, her voice quieter now. Why you want an open relationship? I said, leaning back. It's nice having options, isn't it? She stared at me, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I saw something new on her face, regret, maybe even fear. And damn, it felt good. She suddenly realized what we had was worth saving. I miss us, she said, reaching for my hand. I think this whole thing was a mistake. I almost laughed. The irony was too good. Oh, I said, pulling my hand away. What changed? She hesitated, trying to pick her words carefully. I just realized that being with other people isn't what I want. It made me appreciate what we have. Bullshit. What really happened was she never expected me to actually play along. She thought she could have her fun. Bullshit. What really happened was she never expected me to actually play along. She thought she could have her fun, keep me waiting in the background like some loyal puppy, and then come back when she was done. Too bad for her. I'd already moved on. That's funny, I said, leaning back, because I realized the same thing. Her face lit up for a second, like she thought I was about to say we could go back to how things were. Then I added, just not with you. And that's when she really lost it. That, go ahead, I said, crossing my arms. Sophie unlocked her phone. So fast, she almost dropped it. She scrolled through her messages with Emma, probably looking for some proof that I was lying. But she wouldn't find any. Emma and I had been careful. After a minute, she looked up, her face tight with frustration. She wouldn't do this to me. She already did. I said simply. Sophie let out this bitter laugh, shaking her head. So what? This is revenge? You sleep with my best friend to get back at me? No, Sophie, I said, my voice calm. I slept with Emma because she actually sees me, because she made me realize I deserve better than what you've been giving me. She blinked like I just slapped her. You're really choosing her over me? No, I said, grabbing my keys. I'm choosing myself. And with that, I walked out, leaving Sophie alone with the mess she'd made. Sophie stormed around the apartment, grabbing clothes, stuffing them into a duffel bag with a kind of frantic energy that made it clear she wasn't just leaving for the night. She was making a scene. She wanted me to stop her, to fight for her. But I just stood there, arms crossed, watching. So that's it? She demanded, pausing just long enough to glare at me. You're really choosing her? No, Sophie, I said, my voice steady. I'm choosing to stop being treated like an afterthought. She let out a bitter laugh. You're going to regret this. She's just a rebound. And when she gets bored, you'll be alone. And you'll wish you had fought for me. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. A minute later, she yanked her bag over her shoulder, shot me one last glare, and walked out the door. The moment it closed behind her, a wave of relief washed over me. Not sadness, not regret, just a lightness of finally being freed. Sophie's voice wavered, her eyes wide, almost desperate. You weren't my second choice, she repeated, as if saying it again would make it true. I let out a short, humorless laugh. Really? Because that's exactly what it felt like. She opened her mouth, then closed it, like she was trying to find the right words to spin this into something that didn't make her the villain. But there was no way around it. You wanted an open relationship, so you could have fun without consequences. I continued. You never thought I'd actually find someone else. You just expected me to sit here and wait until you were done. That's not fair, she whispered, but we both knew it was. For the first time, I saw her not as a person I'd loved, not as the girl I'd built a life with, but as someone who had taken me for granted. I don't want to fight anymore, Sophie. I said, quieter now. Just take what you need and go. She hesitated, like she wanted to say something, to fix this somehow, but there was nothing left to fix. Finally, she nodded, stood up, and picked up her bag. At the door, she paused. I really did love you, you know. I know, I said, just not enough. And then she was gone that she completely lost it. Sophie, for once, stayed quiet, her face a mixture of anger and heartbreak. When she finally had all her things packed, she stood by the door, gripping the box like it was the only thing keeping her together. I hope you're happy, she said bitterly. I met her gaze calm and steady. For the first time in a long time, I think I will be. She scoffed, shaking her head. You'll regret this. Emma squeezed my hand, her presence grounding me. No, I said, I won't. And with that, Sophie turned and walked out my life. This is such a satisfying ending. It's not just about getting back at Sophie. It's about realizing self-worth, recognizing real love, and finally being with someone who genuinely cares. The way Emma naturally fits into the narrator's life, bringing warmth and sincerity, makes it clear that this is how relationships should feel. Effortless, supportive, and real. Sophie's downfall wasn't just losing the narrator. It was realizing she never actually had control in the first place. She wanted to have her fun while keeping someone waiting in the wings. But life doesn't work like that. And that last line, perfect. The little edit at the end makes it feel so real and personal, like Emma is right there, happy and content, exactly where she was meant to be.